Welcome to In All Things. Here at Loyola University Chicago, we call ourselves a diverse community seeking God in all things. Join us for a series of thought-provoking and engaging conversations with ramblers across many areas of expertise. We hope you can join us in a process of discovery and inspiration as we all expand our perspectives. I'd now like to introduce our host, our Vice President for Mission Integration, Claire Noonan.
Hello, everyone. Welcome again to In All Things. I am delighted to introduce you to today's guest, Dr. Mohammed Samie Tootooni, Assistant Professor of Health Informatics and Data Science at Loyola's Parkinson School of Public Health and Health Sciences. Dr. Tootooni, who goes by Samie, is in a research field focused on developing and applying AI techniques to assist healthcare professionals in making informed decisions, improving diagnostics, treatment planning, and patient outcomes. Samie, I am delighted to welcome you to the show. I've had the pleasure of meeting you at the faculty writing retreat, and I'm really fascinated by your work. And I wonder if you could introduce our listeners in some general terms what your work is all about, and maybe tell us about a particular project you're excited about right now.
Thank you, Claire. It's great to be with you again. Sure. Thanks for the introduction, too. So I'm assistant professor in health informatics and data science at Loyola. I'm running a lab. My lab has PhD students, postdocs, master's students, medical students. They're all working on seeing how technology can help in healthcare decision making. And again, help in making decision. Again, decision makers would be always human in my research, but we are trying to see if technology, specifically AI and new advancements, could help them make better decisions. We are working on like a handful of projects. One of them that I'm excited about is, or maybe it's more kind of common problem, is regarding a stroke. So every year we have more than 800,000 people who suffers from stroke for the first time in the US. Wow. So this is something that in our lifetime, one or even more of our loved one or ourselves are dealing with. And when someone is having a stroke, what we suddenly do is call 911. So we call 911. They arrive almost immediately, and then they decide to take the patient to hospital. They do their scene evaluation, but what hospital should they take the patient to? The patient need treatment as soon as possible. On the other hand, they need to find out what level of treatment this patient requires, or in more technical term, what level of stroke this patient is suffering from, or what type of stroke. Is it severe? Does it need like certain operation or not? Based on this evaluation, they choose what hospital to take the patient to. Of course, everyone wants to go to the closest hospital, but is the closest hospital equipped enough to take care of this particular stroke? Some stroke are okay, some stroke are. So it depends on the evaluation. What type of stroke center does this patient require? If they make the wrong decision, they take the patient to the ER or emergency room, and then there they are thinking, okay, this patient, they do their own evaluation, and they are like, okay, this patient requires this operation, let's say called mechanical thrombectomy, and we are not able to do it in this hospital. So let's call another ambulance. Let's pack the patient, send the patient to another ER room, maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes away, and then do all the evaluations and tests and everything again. This requires time, and what we don't want to lose for stroke patients is time. So it's very important to make sure that we take the patient to the right hospital. If the closest is good enough, let's do it. If not, then let's make a better decision. And our EMTs, or emergency medical technicians, people who are working in ambulances, they're pretty good in making decisions. They're really good. They have their own metrics. I can name a few like Cincinnati metrics or CPSS, but these metrics are basically a bunch of formula that use a few data. But what we are blessed with these days is that we have a lot of data about this patient, and we record a lot of data. Let's say in ambulance, we record the ECG or electrocardiograms or heart signals, and we record the heart rate, the blood pressure, a lot of other things. So all of these could be used to evaluate this patient right at the scene. So how can we use all of these data to help this patient? The answer is AI. So what we are doing is to develop AI models to help them making better decisions. And then these AI models could be just some black box, or could be like some explainable AI, what they call it, which means that the model provides some informative information and provides some reason behind it to the emergency medical technician, and then with those additional information, they could make more or more accurate decisions to where to take this patient. So this is basically one of our research, how AI could help them make a better decision.
That is so exciting and so critical, right? Because it can both minimize the response time, which is so important to save for the patient's well-being, and also perhaps, as you said, help reduce errors in the EMT's judgment about what is necessary. Any discoveries that you made that on this research project, Samie, so far, or on another that your lab is working for that are exciting and might be of particular interest to our listeners?
Of course, a lot of excitement. So again, there are some measurements that they use, some metrics that they use to find out what level of stroke in current practice, to find out what level of stroke this patient is suffering. But AI, when we compare the matrix out, or AI-based matrix that are coming out from our models, when we compare them with the existing matrix, and then we have the final diagnosis of patients who, for example, came to Loyola, right? And of course, following all the precautions of data privacy and all those things. So we find out that the AI model could significantly improve the accuracy of those matrix. And I'm talking about like tens of percentages improvements on, but these are all in lab level. So of course, when we go to practice, the story could be different. So the other part of our research is what they call translational science, means how we move our research from bench to bed.
Yeah.
So from our lab, like, yes, we see on our computer that AI would work retrospectively, but how could we validate it in real time, prospectively, in practice? This is another part of the research, which is more, as I said, implementation science, translational science. This is another part.
So to translate the findings that you have in the lab into the real world experience for
Exactly,
the patients,
yes,
and the providers as well.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. So that kind of leads me to the next question I wanted to ask you about, Samie. You talk in your biographies, in your CV a little bit about working in an interdisciplinary manner and how important that is in your work. And with an Ignatian lens, I kind of view that interdisciplinarity as a sincere appreciation, to use the words of the podcast, of seeking and finding God in all things. That is that there is going to be truth and discovery in the collaboration across disciplines. And I wonder if you could say a little bit about the nature of your work as interdisciplinary, and and what that stirs for you to work in that manner.
Great question. So yes, this is what the reason I asked. I mean, all questions could be great, but I personally love this question because one of the reason I chose this field was its nature of interdisciplinary. So my PhD is industrial and systems engineering, a little bit of background. So, and I switched from industrial and systems engineering to healthcare and to technology in healthcare, to just because I kind of enjoyed a lot working with people from different fields, and this is part of the diversity statement I always make. So one sort of diversity we have in our field, in addition to, of course, people are from different languages, different races, different ethnicities, different background. We also have different fields. So as I mentioned, in our lab, we have PhD in computer science, master's students in bioinformatics, medical students, PhD students in nursing, biostatisticians, health analysts. And so all of these are working in a few projects, but they're all working on them they have their own part in each project. So for example, for the stroke project we mentioned, so we have to talk with or we have to kind of have knowledge in stroke itself, in emergency response, in how like IT infrastructure work. How can, like, we talk about AI, but is the system capable to have such thing in or capable to implement such thing? And so yes, this is the beauty of it. And then as you said, like in interdisciplinary majors, you always find new things that helps broaden your mind horizon. And this is what I love the most about it. There's always new things to learn, and there are always new things to wonder. Wow, like I did not know that this is the reason behind such thing. So yes, this is what kept me going, actually. I love this about it. And then, like, I have meeting with one student, the other student is coming from totally different background about the same project, though. We talk about the same projects, but different perspective.
I love that sense of wonder and enthusiasm that you bring to the work. And let me ask you, as the leader of the lab, then, how do you build a collaborative environment with these people that are coming with all these different expertise, different perspectives, different backgrounds, as you say? Because you could see it where people would be coming, they couldn't speak to each other, or they couldn't cross those disciplinary barriers, or they would be in so much competition with each other, or lack trust. How do you build an environment of collaboration where people trust each other, where they lean in, they bring their best selves?
I think the goal is most important part, because the reason that I switched to healthcare is more on, like, yeah, I see a lot of advancement in technology and a lot of uses that we can have for AI specifically. And I did not want to kind of have some doubt on the application of it. So I said, okay, so one thing that is always good is to help patients, help care, like to use it in helping clinicians, like, instead of building like things that are not used for good reasons. So that's why I switched to healthcare. I was in manufacturing. I was in additive manufacturing, and then I switched to healthcare because of I wanted to make sure the application of my field or my knowledge would be for social good, for human, like, kind of reason, for justice. And these are all part of the reason that we are all working in this field. I don't know, like, do you want me to go to a certain direction? I can. I mean,
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, how interesting to hear your own journey in terms of your understanding of AI, its potential, and where your, if I can use the word vocation, maybe, Samie, where your call is to use your field as we say in our mission statement at Loyola, to expand knowledge in the service of humanity, and bringing this knowledge around AI, around the technology into the healthcare field is so clearly meant to be in service of humanity.
Can you answer for me? I think this
You answered yourselves. I just summarized your answer. Um, so speaking of asking for answers, you shared with me when we were prepping for the interview that you give a certain assignment in your courses to your students,
yeah,
asking
we can talk.
them, to align their work to the mission of Jesuit education. Can you share with our listeners what that assignment is and a little bit of how you thought of designing it?
Oh yeah. So I was I wanted to have like I really enjoy this Loyola mission. I think regardless of what religion you follow, or if you follow a religion or not, I think regardless of that, it's more about humanity. It's more about being good, like doing good, health, like justice, health equity. All of these are like what's always good, no matter what
Mm,
you're following.
mm,
So to me, this was something that all my students, regardless of what they believe, could think of and could see themselves applying what they are learning in. So I kind of list for them, I think like 8 or 9 different perspective of that are obtained from Loyola Mission, but more on like kind of relate to their classes. I teach 2 classes: natural language processing, which is basically the foundation of ChatGPT,
mm,
and the other class that I teach is ontology, which is the structure of knowledge that that we have in our mind, knowledge as a whole, not a certain knowledge, like how our mind perceive knowledge, what is knowledge, and
mm.
then how we can structure it in a way to transfer it to a computer, right? It's
Wow.
not data, it's knowledge again.
Yeah.
Okay, so in these classes, I want them to think of what they are learning, to think of how what they are learning is related to, for example, or can be used to address social inequities,
Mm-hmm.
or to promote common goods,
Mm-hmm.
or even to kind of make it in larger in a larger scale, in in promoting, let's say, global paradigm. So so things like that, I think it was in their assignment. So I asked them, this was the last assignment I gave them. It was probably one of the shortest one. Said write 1 or 2 pages about like how what you are learning could be applied in these aspects.
Mm.
So they could choose like 2 or 3 of them and talk about them, like how natural language processing in healthcare particularly could be used to promote health equity.
So really pushing them to make that translation that you talked about earlier in the interview from a abstract lab space to a real world experience of how to make an impact in people's lives in the common good, as you say.
And also, yes, exactly. And also, I think it also gives them motivation. To me, it was the same. Like my motivation was kind of very similar. As I said, my background is not healthcare.
Yeah.
I have a PhD in industrial systems engineering, and then I switched to Mayo Clinic and then to Loyola. So I switched after to healthcare after I received my doctorate degree. So that's kind of and the reason was more promoting social goods, addressing health inequities, or seeing how social determinants of health is important in our clinical decision making. Things like that. That, for example, we talk about stroke, right? So for a stroke patient, consider a patient who lives in Chicago, like very close to University of Chicago or Loyola University or Loyola University Medical Center. So those patients, they don't have any decision to make if they have a stroke, or if one of their loved one have stroke. Of course, the first choice and best choice is always the closest hospital, because the closest hospital is very equipped for any type of stroke. But what about those patients living very west in, let's say, in Illinois?
Where
Those
there's a rural area and the two hospitals are in opposite directions, and one has one and one has a different set of equipment, and
and that's the decision to make for us. It's these research is more helping them versus people in more advantage area.
Yeah.
So those people need to make those EMTs decision is more important to make. Hey, the other hospital is 2 hours away.
Yeah.
Should I take this patient to the other hospital, and then this patient is suffering from stroke? So every minute means losing millions of neurons.
Yeah.
So this is like when we think of impact of our research. So again, back to your point on translation, I was going to add one thing to that. It's also motivational. It's like when they think of these, they realize that it's not just for their career, it's also for making a world better place.
Yes. I sometimes say for our students, we hope this education at Loyola is for you, but it's not only for you. So as we're getting toward the close of our time here, Samie, and one question I like to pose to our guests is this. So the late Jesuit priest and scholar Howard Gray, a kind of revered teacher of Ignatian spirituality, in his article Soul Education says, simply put, the Ignatian instinct is to help people become fully alive. So as we close our conversation, I'd just like to ask you if you are experiencing fullness of life these days in any way that we haven't yet talked about that you'd like to share.
So yes, it's hard to answer for me, because there were times that I thought about it, and then I was feeling it, and then later on realized that life was bigger and my horizon got bigger, and then again that happened. So I think it's subjective of feeling the full of life, of where you are, or we should say, do I feel it for myself? Because I think as a person, or what we call as a whole person, as a person, we have a journey, and while we are going through our journey, we are experiencing more of life. So I believe we can increase our horizon every moment. So, but what I'm doing in everyday life, yes, I feel like I'm not following my career. I'm following something that I'm passionate for. It's and it happened to be my career. So I really enjoyed this, doing all this research and dealing with all the students. Also another part is mentoring, that I really enjoy, mentoring those people that share a same goal of doing good, doing social good, applying technology to improve or to address inequality or to improve social justice. And this is great. I think this should be this. I'm happy that this is my path.
Yeah, I am happy it's your path too, and I'm sure your students are as well. work that you're doing in your lab, but also the journey that you've taken in your life, the changes that you've made in order to pursue what you're most passionate about and to contribute to the service of humanity, as we say, is really inspiring, Samie. So thank you. I so enjoyed this conversation. What a joy it has been to speak with you today. I want to remind our listeners that you can find more on Samie's current projects on his lab's website, which is simply Dr. Tootooni's Lab. And you can listen to this podcast by searching the Ignatian Heritage Month website at Loyola University Chicago. Until next time, all, I thank my team, Kayla Cooney, Clemisha Richards, Julia Price, and Lauren Schwer, and keep seeking God in all things.